Hey, this is Jonathan Gilliam. I'm about to start the show, and now we finished Thanksgiving, so you know what that means? It's time to start stuffing the stockings and ordering your presents for Christmas. Yes, that's right, it's Christmas. And I can't think of any better present than Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. And on top of that, go get the 2 workbooks that go with it, the Threat Assessment and Defense Assessment workbook. And for the children, don't forget them and their stockings, The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. It's a book of pictures that include lessons on safety, awareness, and communication. And you, the parent or the teacher, can go and download the lesson plans at teamlittlebigs.com. It's great for children who aren't quite old enough to understand that stuff, so you can teach them through the pictures, and also learning disabled children as well. All the entire awareness package for your family. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It's 2 workbooks, the Threat Assessment and Defense Assessment workbook, and The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. Great for Christmas under the tree, great for stocking stuffers, and if you really want to tick off Cuomo in New York or Gavin Newsom in California or anywhere else they have these ridiculous socialist ideas of how many people you should have at your home over the holidays, go buy 15 stockings and stuff them full of these books and invite your family over. Do it. Let's start the show.
The truth has arrived.
My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And welcome back. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I took the day off, as you could see, and now it's time to get back into it. And, I thought the day, because it's the repeating the news. I don't like, as I always say, I don't like to repeat the same things all the time. I will say this about what was in the news, or what's in the news today. It actually happened yesterday, was that the president had a quick press conference, and he kind of laid out a little bit some of the stuff that they're looking at as far as the fraud in the elections. Why am I having such a hard time saying elections? But I thought that he laid it out perfectly as to not the proof, but the circumstances. All week I've been talking about the totality of circumstances. The stuff that he pointed out is so suspicious, and so it should be looked at, right? Like, one of the things was that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama in the black community, and I just don't know how that's even possible. I don't know how that's possible. After all the things that occurred with Joe Biden and these gaffes, not just recently, but the entire time he has been in office, over 40 years, and the gaffes that he's had, I don't know. It's unlikely that he literally got more votes on the Democrat, or just votes all around, than the first black president. But that seems to be the case here. That's the first thing. You're not going to be able to prove that. I mean, I don't really think, unless they do a revote. But the other thing was that in all the states, with the exception of the states that were the most important, I forgot what they called them right now, but there were the states that were the most important, the battleground states, that's what it was. Somehow Joe Biden pulled out victories in all the most important battleground states, and those victories came not during the election, but in the counting of the mail-in ballots, which anybody with any sense whatsoever knew that they were going to somehow rig that. I mean, how can the country possibly take into account that many votes that are sent in on ballots? Many of them were never even requested. And one of the things that the president talked about was how a woman, I don't know where it was, she went up to go vote And they said she'd already voted, and she said, no, I haven't. And they said, yeah, you already sent your ballot in, and they turned her away. And this happened a lot. Look, I've said this over and over again, okay? The president is not going to win any great victory here against the Democrat Party for two reasons. One, the Republican Party is not involved in this. They are just sitting back because many of the people in the establishment are not interested. They're not interested in hearing anything the president has to say because they don't want him as president. These people are rhinos, which if you don't know what that means, Republican in name only. They are corrupt business people. John McCain was a perfect example. Lindsey Graham is a perfect example. They just are careerists, professional scam artists, and they own the Republican Party, and they're not going to give that over to anyone else. And it's killed them over the past 4 years that they had to do business with a guy who really was trying to make change. They did not like that because they don't want things to be fixed because they believe it's going to work them out of a job. That's the way careerists always think. These are people that have no experience in leadership. Now, on the other side, you got the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party is a communist, you can call it socialist, which we're going to talk about that tonight, a socialist party. The ultimate goal of all socialist parties or organizations or countries is communism. It's a utopia. You need to look up communism. Socialism is a stepping stone to that. It's like a gateway drug, if you will, for Satan. So that I think was very important that happened today. Yesterday. You're going to be listening to this on Friday, but yeah, yesterday. And right now, by the way, it's 4:37 a.m. Friday morning, so it's this is coming to you pretty quick. This all happened earlier Thursday. I mean, there's other stuff in the news, but really right now we're in that limbo phase where it's a lot of spin of the same stories over and over again. So with that being said, I'm always referring to Drago and episode number 2. So what I wanted to do is I went back and pulled up that interview with Drago, and I'm going to play that interview today. That's going to be today's show. If you haven't listened to episode number 2, I'm going to basically replay the interview. And then Monday, I'm going to talk to Drago. Monday, I'm going to try to have Drago back on. I'm going to have him listen to this, and then we're going to rehash some of this stuff and then go back even further into now where we're at and how it compares to where he's from originally in Poland. So this is very, very important that you hear this and that you share this with people, because we compared to where this was when we first did this. And let me pull up what the date was that we first did this. Actually, I can look at it on my phone here. When we first did the interview with Drago, and of course it's not coming up immediately on my phone. Actually, it's, I gotta be honest. iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud they're really the best to listen to this stuff on. Stitcher and iHeartRadio. I mean, it's the same wherever you listen to, but Stitcher never seems to update my shows, and iHeartRadio just takes a long time to upload. But when we look at Drago, I had him on the first time, let's see if I can get the specifics on this. January 16th. So January 16th of this year, we were so far away from where we are now. I want you to think about that as you listen to this, and Drago's talking to me, and he's like, if, many of the things that he's saying, if we go down this road, we're there. It's taken less than a year. And in just 2 months, if the president is not able to prove, remember, in a court of law, it doesn't matter if it actually happened. It's can you prove that it happened? I think I was going to say a minute ago, and I cut myself off, is that the president, whether, no matter what happens, if you want this stuff to stop, the people have to stand up. They have to stand up. So what Drago says a lot of things about, like, if we go here, it's already occurred in just since January. 11 months. It's gone crazy. We didn't even have COVID in this country that we knew about in January when this interview was recorded. So that's why it's going to be important. I'm going to push Drago to listen to this again himself, and then we will reconvene on Monday and talk further about what's actually happening in this country. So with that, let me go ahead and start the interview, and then I'll close the show. I'll come back and close the show after I get it recorded. So again, this is from January 16th of this year, the interview that I recorded. All right, so here we go. I'm going to bring in now my good buddy Drago, who I told you the story a little bit earlier, kind of gave you an introduction about it, but I think Drago's going to be able to tell this story a lot better than I can. And I had him on the video cast of the experts. I don't know, it was like a year and a half. No, it was like 2 years ago when we discussed this stuff before. But from the time that I did the video cast to now, it's unbelievable what's happened. And Drago and I talked about what was to come. And many of the things that he had seen in a communist country prior to this were things that he's seeing now. So, Drago, this is going to be fast and loose because you're in the car flying down the freeway. So, tell real quick, tell the story again, how you came to America and what your background is, and why, not just because you were a SEAL, but the authority that you speak with when you talk about what's happening in this country because of politics. Go ahead.
Well, so as you can hear from my accent, I wasn't born here. I was born in Poland, in communist Poland. Well, actually, there was not really communist. There was socialism. Socialist Poland.
Well, let me ask you this real quick before you go any further. You've lived there. What is the difference between true socialism and communism?
Well, you can read the definition of it in any dictionary, what is socialism, what is communism. But I can tell you how it looks like living in a socialist country. But socialism is a stepping stone to communism. When they try to do it first in Russia, implement a straight communism, they realize they can't do it. It's just they need some stepping stone, some transition point, and this is how the socialists came about. So I can tell you their life in the socialist country, where basically you always go hungry, and I remember it very well. Sometimes in the morning, waking up, about to go to school and having nothing for breakfast because my mom, who was waiting in line for food since 3:30 in the morning, was not able to buy it because all the bread was sold out before she made it up the line.
And why was that?
So
why
was
the bread sold out? Is it because it wasn't a capitalist country, that these were government-controlled grocery stores? I mean, why was that?
Yes, exactly. They were government-controlled stores. There was no private business in Poland. Well, they were small, a little bit allowed by communists and socialists in Poland, but they had a pretty good grip on the economy, and they ruined the economy. So there's not much different that is going right now in Venezuela or in other socialist countries. So for me, it is such unbelievable that here we have people advocating the system that cost millions of lives around the world already. But I'm not, from another point of view, I remember every time that there was uprising against socialism and they murdered peoples and workers, the government, there was the next socialist crew was coming up and say, no, we know how socialism is really supposed to be implemented. So these other guys before us were bad, but we will do the right way. 7-8 years later, the same story repeats itself. The new crew comes in and murder a bunch of people, citizens, and then say, well, we will tell you how to implement the socialism. Socialism is a very dangerous concept, and people need to educate themselves about it. Unfortunately, at schools, they stop teaching it. They don't teach about it.
The perils. They don't teach about the perils of socialism at all.
No, they don't. That's the big. I think as a society here, we lost the battle for educational battle in schools and universities, because we have these old quacks and wackos subscribing to socialist countries, spreading that disease to our younger generation.
That's one thing I've never understood about the education sector. You know, I mean, I grew up in a town called Yellville in Arkansas. At that point, when I was there, we had 1,050 people. And you had basically, I don't know, 7 or 8 courses a day, and you learn how to read and write and interact socially. There wasn't any of this stuff that was like it was, and you know, in some schools they did in hours that I remember, but they even had gun safety in some of the schools. You would have home economics where people learned to cook and raise babies. You would have what was the other agriculture stuff. None of that stuff exists anymore. Now they're more concerned with whether or not we give 4 kids in a school of thousands because they identify as transgender, that we give them the right bathroom. They're more concerned with that and teaching transgender and health and sex education to 7-year-olds. They're more concerned with that than they are actually teaching to read and write.
Well, so this is because you went to such school, you are not subscribing to Antifa
right.
groups, the terror group raging around the country. You are not, I believe, you are not a subscriber to 72, not the virgin, the genders, 72 genders now taught in schools, and all the other wacky stuff. So, I mean, this is, our society is being demoralized in the speed of light, I would say, by the Democratic Party, socialists in Democratic Party, and straight up communists.
Yeah,
we are living in a very dangerous time. We are about to lose. We could lose our country, because if you see, if you take a closer look at what Democratic Party is doing. Oh, by the way, I have not seen so much hatred to America, even behind Iron Curtain from communists.
Yeah.
Even from the terrorists I was killing, and I was hunting.
Right.
I didn't see so much hatred to our country like I see from Democratic Party and from the left. That's just preposterous.
So, you know, you talked about socialism and how you lived in this socialist country, and how the reality is how it's really communist light. Explain to everybody what happens when a socialist country moves into communism, if that's even possible, if there is a difference.
No, there is a difference, but I don't think it is possible. You know, this is same like trying to implement Snow White fairy tale. You know, it sounds really good, but nobody's trying to actually implement in real life.
Right.
But now we have our younger society and some of the politicians so enamored with this tragic murderous ideology that they really try to implement it here. And as you can see now, the Soviet Union, when it fell apart, Russia discarded socialism and communism. They moved away from it. So now we have here these decrepit politicians, I don't know paid by who, maybe Soros and others, trying to push our country into the abyss of socialism and communism. Mm-hmm. I mean, take a closer look what's going on in Venezuela, Cuba, any socialist country. It's incredible. Look what they did, what the left elite did to Europe. I mean, right now, that we don't hear about the terror attacks there, about the fears people live in Europe, in certain European countries. you don't hear that because the fake news media suppresses that information. I read foreign news because I speak 5 different languages, and this is just preposterous how the media can suppress the information and feed our people, our citizens, the lies.
Right. Right. It's crazy. Now, tell everybody a little bit about how, not just that you lived in a communist country, or socialist country / communist, but how you were actually held prisoner in a prison / I don't know, did they call it a re-education camp, or was it just called prison?
Well, there were internment camps and straight up prison. It depends how much socialist elite hated you.
Yeah.
So in December 1980, when they took the martial law, they arrested thousands of people just on the suspicion that, the reason for arrest, they didn't call it arrest, they called it internment. So they say that they were interned, but the reason was given that you could be potentially dangerous to the state. That was enough to put you in the camp.
Right. Now, how did you get involved? Like you got locked up for.
Right. My mom was involved. My mother was involved in Solidarity.
Right.
The trade union, the first independent trade union, independent from communist and socialist parties in Poland. So eventually, they gained so much popularity in Poland. And in Poland, the people hated socialists after what was done to them. So my mom was involved in it. And after the communists and socialists imposed martial law in Poland, they arrested thousands of people. Some of them were most of them were on just because they could be potentially dangerous to the state.
Right.
So after this injustice, a lot of people took to underground and started building underground structures, print underground newspapers, informational bulletins, what's going on in the country, and I was one of them. So
and how many people? How many people at that point in time were involved with this, and how many people were partaking of that information? In other words, like you guys produced it or whatever. How many people were actually like saying this is important? We need to read this. Was it a vast majority?
Oh, more than a vast majority. There was a very small minority of socialists and communists in Poland. They did not really believe in it. It's something similar to what is happening here right now. This is why I will come back to it later to the election year. But this the same thing is happening here. We have a small minority of very loud screamers and supported by fake news media who create impression that there is such a majority of our society supporting this leftist lunacy. But it is not the case. Most of the people don't. They are being told that this is happening. But it is absolutely not true. Same thing happened in Poland. So all the press, the media were really pushing the propaganda that the majority of Poles at the time do not want to break away from socialism, from communism. But it was so much of it that people just tuned it out. Just like people now are tuning out CNN, NBC, MSNBC, all this fake news media crap, they did the same thing.
Right.
So people were, after the martial law was imposed, everything was shut down. So yes, people were seeking the information outside of the official fake news socialist media. And I was one of actually creating them. That's how I got arrested. Put in jail after a 3 years prison sentence. In Poland, we call it gulags, just to make that connection between socialism and communism, what happened in Soviet Union and what's happening in Poland. And, they were not, by legal term, gulags. They were prisons for political concentration camps where they keep people not friendly to socialism and communism.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent quite some time up there. I was released on amnesty when John Paul II and Pope came to Poland. So the socialists made the gesture towards him and started releasing political prisoners. So this is how it came about. But talking about the elections now, this is when President Trump, at that time was Mr. Trump, announced he will run for president. And my colleagues, they say that's impossible. I say stand by, it is possible because the atmosphere in our country is just right. It happened late 70s in communist socialist Poland, the same thing. And people are just fed up with these sleek, fake, lying politicians with the swamp. Finally, they had a chance to elect somebody who's genuine, who does what he says. And now you see this big onslaught of the swamp and these treasonous elements trying to undermine our president in our country. It is, I'm telling you, I am so, I cannot believe that we have Democratic Party working so hard to undermine our country and our president. If Osama, this is my belief that if Osama bin Laden was still alive today, he would be extremely proud to join Democratic Party. He would be the first one, I think, to sign up from Middle East.
It's interesting because that's what I opened the show talking about. And as Drago will tell you, I was supposed to send him some questions I was going to ask, I never did. But this is exactly what I was talking about in the beginning, was how people, they think they can solve problems based on ideology. Like they think that, you can change a light bulb or mow a lawn using ideology, but you can't. You really have to look at what's effective and what's not. And when you look at what's happening in the Democrat Party, historically, anybody who even remotely moves towards communism is going to belly up to the bar with fundamental Muslims. It happens every single time. And I've talked to Muslim friends of mine about the Red-Green Alliance and about how these things work and how these two groups throughout their young histories have cozied up together, and how and exactly what you said, who Osama bin Laden would jump right on with this party. But what's incredible for me, and I want to kind of twist your brain a little bit about this, is what is happening in this country that historically happened in Poland and other communist countries. What are the behaviors that you're seeing? Because if somebody's liberal and listening to this, I want them to realize that I'm not trying to create a podcast that is a hit job on liberals. I want to create a podcast that is informative to everyone. And I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on here so quick on this is because I don't think that you just have a mentality that hates liberals. I don't think you have a mentality that says we're going to fix this country if we do everything opposite of what people who say they're liberal do. But there are certain characteristics of the Democrat Party and the people who follow them and what they believe that is historically being recreated, that was the same behavior, the same belief, the same policies that you saw historically in Poland and other communist countries.
Yes. First thing what you should see, what everybody should see, is weaponizing state institutions against citizens and organizations with different views. And if you look on IRS, FBI, and CIA, powerful organizations engaging into undermining our republic, undermining and threatening our citizens and our organizations, the things that are very similar, which everybody should already see, what happened during the previous administration, is weaponizing the state institutions against citizens and against organizations and citizens with different views. Then they they like to enforce. The socialists like to enforce in our country. So this is the first thing. If you look at the FBI, CIA, even CIA, yes, Brennan, the Muslim convert, even FBI and IRS in particular, IRS, threatening, harassing, and intimidating our citizens and the organizations with different views is right there. It should raise alarm. That's the hallmark of social totalitarian system. Two, creating quietly and supporting terrorist organizations. So now we have this Antifa, very strongly supported by Democratic Party, terrorize people, trying to intimidating people and physically attacking them. Whereas police in those cities, those liberal cities, nowhere to be found to do anything about it. They're just quietly unleashing those animals on our society.
And that's historical. That's historical. That's what happened.
The same thing happened in communist, socialist Poland. The same thing happened in Soviet Union. Please remember that the revolution was not implemented by old Lenin and his old henchmen. It was implemented by young, converted individuals, young students who really believed in that system. And those are those people who terrorize society up there into socialism.
So that seems to be that right there seems to be a repeating issue, is that people go to college or universities and they get indoctrinated, but it's also a critical time when they can be indoctrinated. I think I don't know if these communists in the education system figured this out a long time ago, but that period of time, 18 to 24 or to 26, for my case it's 26, but it's a very critical time when their brains are maturing and they can be molded very easily, and they end up causing massive problems.
Yes, but you know what? It also is coming from the earlier education and parental education. Right now, what I see as parents just send kids to school, and they don't even care what the kids left up there. As long as they bring good grades, there's no problem. It's awesome. So we have a lot of young children already being taught in even earlier age certain values that are not in line with the parental values often. This is why I'm saying we parents, we need to monitor very closely what is being taught to our children. I can give you the example here they try to bring a day of, not the burqa day, I think the hijab, that even at younger age being shaped, and very often the children's mentality and values are being shaped not the way we parents would like to see it. And the best example is where they decide to actually dress children, every child, every girl in the school in a hijab, that Muslim garb, or whatever you call it, the scarf wrapped around the head.
But yet,
It looks like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But if you wanted to have everybody wear a cross or something like that, they would. Or dress everybody up as a nun for the day. They wouldn't do that.
Oh yeah, try to bring child with the MAGA t-shirt. So another thing too. Do you remember any of such? We remember the older times before the previous administration. You were not afraid to support your president. You were proud to support whoever you choose to vote for.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are being attacked physically. Democratic Party unleashed this terror on our society. People don't realize, but this is terror. And people are getting beat up on the street, being attacked, spit on for supporting the president we all elected. So this is, we are sliding down, but it doesn't help also when Democratic Party is undermining our moral values, the family values. There is no more family as we used to know it. Now, they create some definitions pretty much demoralizing the society, demoralizing people, and also undermining the faith upon which our great country was founded. Mm-hmm. So we are in peril now. I think those are very dangerous times, and I think the best first immediate solution would be for parents to control what children are learning. My kids are not learning about 72 genders. That's wacko. But they're bringing these things that you don't agree with it, to undermine our values. You know.
So let's get back. Let's get back to the story now about when you were put in jail. What exactly happened?
Well, so I was arrested, and no attorney. There's no such thing as attorney at the time. You could have one, but they don't tell you that I will just throw in the prison. Now, they use the tactics, which at that time I was not aware of, but you can read about them actually on CIA.gov website. There is an official document written by two MD psychiatrists how the Russian state police was harassing and basically torturing enemies of the state. So so basically they use the same methods. You're being called. They keep you in the cold cell that your body starts slowly breaking down. You don't have enough food. You are being harassed day and night. So your defenses are slowly breaking down. At least that's what they're hoping for. And after that, I had this kangaroo court. There was a military court. And when I was sentenced to, I was like, no, I didn't even want to hear. I was beat up too. And before that, I didn't want to hear about it. So they just, okay, this is your sentence, you go. So I was sent to, then I was sitting with criminals first. And then I was sent to a strictly political prison in Hrubieszów, right on the Soviet Union border with Poland at the time. And so that's how it worked there. But you know what is concerning? That similar systems that right now, similar methods are being implemented right now in our country. And the best example is Chief Gallagher, where they use exactly the same methods that use against me, the state police and communists use against me, and NCIS was using against Chief Gallagher.
You're talking about Eddie Gallagher, the Navy SEAL that was charged with murder, and then.
So if you read his diary, you read his complaint, the first thing was always cold, always hungry, being shackled for 72 hours. His children were marched out of the house. When parents were not there, the NCIS was taking Chief Gallagher's house. And when parents left, when mother left, they arrested father and then raided his house, pulled the kids at gunpoint in their underwears on the street. You know what? I haven't seen nothing like that in a communist country. And this is what happened here in our country. This is how the values and democracy deteriorated here under Obama administration.
I wonder if they even realize, though, what they do. And I thought about that until I got in this fight that I told on this podcast, but people can read about it. If they go and Google my name, they'll see where I got jumped by several, not just Antifa people. These are people who are, part of the Democrat Party. And these were executives at Boeing and things like that. And I got jumped by these people in the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C., and ended up having to punch my way out of it. And, of course, they scattered like a bunch of little wimps after that, but it was I never really thought that people could feel that strongly enough to do these types of things. But I wondered, after Eddie Gallagher's story and the way that in San Diego, the way that the prosecution acted and the underhanded, putting in spyware on computers of the media and the defense attorneys, the way that they arrested Eddie's kids, arrested Eddie and held his kids out there when they went and searched his home. I mean, these are tactics. Yeah, these are tactics like you were talking about that are odd to me from an investigative standpoint. You would never, ever think that the prosecution would spy without, without a warrant, would just go spy on people, or that they would take kids and hold them at gunpoint. There were many times when I was in the FBI where I went through doors and we were in real arrests and real situations with real bad guys. We knew that there were children in there, and when we ended up running into those children, we would quickly pass them to somebody who really did take care of them, get them outside and get them away from danger, and then try to calm the situation down. You would never stick a gun in a kid's face. Never.
Look. Even when we're raiding terrorists' hideouts in Iraq, when children sometimes were present, we didn't do it to the terrorists. And here we have our own NCIS. That's what I would describe example of domestic terror group.
Yeah.
That needs to change, because apparently they can get away with it. If they can get away with it, they will use it today on Chip Gallagher's children. Tomorrow, maybe your children.
Yeah.
We had that, so that needs to be changed. And I believe that some better oversight is needed, because what happened there is, I haven't seen in communist countries terror like this unleashed on children. And even we, when we raided the worst terrorists, we didn't do it to children in Iraq.
Hey, listen.
But this is normal. Let me just add one more thing. This is normal, because for socialism and communism, when you subscribe to losing ideology, dangerous ideology that already murdered millions around the globe, the only way you can sustain yourself and stay at power is by murder, by intimidation and violence. In Poland, years after the fall of socialism, they are still finding mass graves of opponents of socialism and communism. And a matter of fact, I think 4 or 5 months ago was just another such grave, secret grave found. If you think it is not going to happen here in our country, if you let them do it, just stand by. You can ask Germans how the most civilized nation was hijacked and subscribed to Hitler's Nazism and National Socialist ideology.
Who were the people that actually killed those people and put them in graves? See, here's where I'm looking at right now. So, like you and I served, in the SEAL teams. We were both at SEAL Team 4. I served in law enforcement, and I can't ever imagine myself personally, nor would I think that you would do this, where if they said, we want you to take these American citizens because they don't agree with what the government's saying, want you to kill them and put them in that mass grave over there. I would be like, no, I'm not doing that.
So look what happened to Germany when Hitler took power and Nazis took power. Look what happened in Poland. I remember when I was growing up in socialist Poland, we all were always saying, "No, those are conscripts. This military is not going to shoot at their mother and fathers. It's not possible. How could it be?" And every 8-10 years, that people were coming on the streets and their sons were killing them. So that's just because you think it's impossible. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Actually, that it didn't happen here. It is very, I would say we need to be very cautious, because there is very often people subscribe to mentality that, it's not going to happen here. Well, it's like lightning is not going to hit me until it does. So
it's very.
We need to be cautious about it, because if we let them go unchecked, like what Democratic Party is doing now, trying to overthrow our elected president and undermine our country, if we let them do it, we will end up like Germany.
Well, it's also very interesting, though, because we're talking a lot about the Democrat Party, but let's not leave the Republican establishment out, and the never Trumpers, and the people who basically, I was speaking a lot earlier about narcissists. I think the narcissists in history play a huge part in this whole process. And I think if you look at Marx and I don't know about Lenin, but if you look at Stalin, some of these people, they weren't just psychopathic, they were narcissists. And I think that what you see now with the Republican Party, I'm sure you saw that in Poland with people who said that they were out for the betterment of the people. Even after you guys were doing what you were doing, the Freedom Underground, these weirdos will still somehow get themselves in positions of authority or positions of power. And the other thing that I see, listening to you and reading up on the history and what I see now, is that law enforcement in the United States, you see it in Virginia, they're caught in the middle of all this. And there will be people that will compromise their values because of a paycheck or because they have a family and they need their insurance and stuff. They will compromise their values. And once they compromise so far, then they will put people in graves, and they will justify it in their own brains of what they've done.
But yes, it will happen. It happens in every country. Just because we are the United States doesn't mean that we will have traitors, that we will have people like Bergdahl and like Pelosi, like this Schiff, what's his name?
Schiff.
Schiff.
Yeah.
Same thing. So that means it's not going to happen. We need to be vigilant. And if you look at the history, thousands of years ago, if you look at the Greek history, there was always that struggle between the democratic faction and the conservative faction. Their society was always that strife. And you can actually see during Peloponnesian War, if you read about it, it's just the parallels are just incredible. I know it's kind of simplistic, but comparison, but I would like some people to read a little bit about Peloponnesian War and then look at what is happening in our country and around the world.
So let's do this real quick. Let's take a break for a second, and then I'm trying to input some time where we have some commercials throughout this thing in hopes that we get some funding for it. Let's take a break real quick, Drago, and then we'll come right back, and I want to get in the story of how you ended up getting to America, and then what it was like once you got here, looking back on what you saw. So we'll take a break. We'll come right back on The Experts. It's Jonathan Gilliam interviewing Drago. We'll be right back. Okay. Hey, this is Jonathan Gilliam, and you're probably listening to The Experts, and I'm making this commercial, but you're going to listen to it anyway because this is a dry run for when I have real commercials. But listen, if you have not gotten my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, you should go get it. I've got 2 workbooks now that go with it, and even more, well, I don't know if it's more importantly, but importantly, now it's starting in April, I'm going to have a book. It comes out in April. You can buy it right now, but it's called The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, A Parent's Book for Children, and it's a book of pictures for your children, and the pictures have awareness and safety tips embedded in them, and then the parents can go to teamlittlebigs.com and download lesson plans that go with them. I mean, now what you're going to have is with Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, is you have your own book that teaches you how to look at yourself from the attacker's point of view and then turn around and make defenses in your life, your business, your city, your schools, your family, your home, just the way that we would do it in law enforcement and in force protection in the military. With that, you'll have the 2 workbooks where you can actually apply that knowledge that you learn. And then with the children's book, you can start teaching your children from a very, very, very young age how to be aware and how to be safe. It's also good reminders for parents on where the danger lies. Go get it. Sheep No More. Go get all of it. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Workbook number 1 is the Threat Assessment Workbook. Workbook number 2 is the Defense Assessment Workbook. And then for your children, you have Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children, and the website that goes right along with it. Go get that. Go look it up on Amazon. We're going to go back now, and we're going to have the interview with Drago. So let's go back now.
This is Rashida Tlaib, and when I'm not hating America, I'm totally not listening to the experts.
And this is Acacia Cortez, and I'll be serving drinks later this week at a bar in Washington, D.C. Come on down.
I don't know if I want to have a drink because I have to get back to my big schedule of hating America.
Yeah, me too, but you can always do it drunk. I do it all the time. This is the experts, by the way.
The truth has arrived.
That's right. That's right. And, okay, so what I want to get into now, Drago, I think everybody understands that you're authority when you talk about communism and socialism and where we're going in this country as opposed to where you came from. But let's go back now to the story where you were in prison. What was that like in the socialist country? I mean, you're not looking at prison here where they have prisoner rights. I mean, what was that like?
Absolutely not. So when I'm watching about the TVs in prisons, the workout yards, the gyms, I was, we kind of knew about it, about the prisons in the United States, and many of us were thinking, look, I just give up my whole citizenship here just to go to prison to America. I'll be more free there. I'll have more there.
Right.
So yes, you didn't have any rights. On the paper you did, but they were just meaningless, and they did whatever they wanted to do. They most likely were too inconvenient. They just kill you, or you disappear, and you never heard from again. That was the common. And if you think that it cannot happen here, look already at the violence unleashed by Democratic Party on our society.
Yeah. So you were in the prison. And did you have any hope on getting out? I mean, before you're going to tell about what actually happened. But did you have any hope at all?
Really, actually, the prison, how to break out of it, at least try to break out in case of Russian invasion of Poland, or in case they try to exterminate us. And that was really a possibility at the time, and we were really considering it. So we did have a plan. At least, success of it there wouldn't be successful plan, but at least we wouldn't die just waiting in the cell for the bullet.
So you were like Andy Dufresne of the Polish world. That Andy Dufresne was the guy from Shawshank Redemption.
One of many.
Say that again?
I was one of many.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had a plan to get out, but fortunate for you, what happened?
Well, when the John Paul II came to Poland, the communist socialist elite decided to release most of the political prisoners at the time as a gesture towards the Pope. But after I was released, of course, I couldn't find a job. I was being harassed by the police. I was being caught or stopped by the police on the street. I was doing taekwondo and kickboxing at the time. So sometimes coming out of the club, there was police already waiting there. They picked me up, drove me around the town, threatened me, and just dumped me somewhere on the other part of the town. I decided it's time to go, and went to U.S. Embassy, asked for help, because I always, matter of fact, I would like to spend the time talking about it. Even when I was growing up, every time I seen American flag, and most of us in Poland at the time were seeing freedom. And there was something like, why Poland cannot be like this, like America? And that was like a dream. And I never thought in my wildest dream I can ever come to America and live here as a free man. Because, of course, we all were prisoners within that. I was a prisoner in prison, but also the entire Polish population was prison within the socialist labor camp, what we often call up there.
And you weren't just like, it's not like you just got out of jail and went to the embassy. I mean, you told me the story about getting harassed by these guys and followed.
Yes, I didn't think I would be even able to go. I didn't have any money. I didn't have the travels were expensive. It was like with the passport, you couldn't, most of the time I couldn't get. And so I went to U.S. Embassy eventually after all this harassment of these months of trying to, go back and have a life. So I went to U.S. Embassy, asked for help, and I was allowed to come to the United States. for which I am, and I always will be very grateful, and start my new life here. So yeah, that's funny. Funny thing is that I remember I had to apply for the passport. My mom didn't have enough money, neither I, to do it. So some of my friends actually loaned me the money to purchase the passport, and and with the expenses. And I went to had to go get permission from the military that I'm not going to be a conscript and I don't qualify for the military. So I still remember this little tour in a socialist military uniform. Came out saying, "Oh, people like you should be served under this eagle up there, the Polish eagle." So I had to actually educate this military officer that that's up there, what is hanging over his head. It's not a real Polish eagle. That eagle doesn't have a crown on his head that was stolen by Stalin after Second World War. So when the real Polish eagle came back, he better watch out because his ass would be online. And he just kept screaming, stomping while I left with his signature.
Wow.
So I was transported to Central Germany, then where we were told about America, about the rules, about the law, and how to be good citizen. So that was actually, I remember, I had a very fond memory of it. So after 3 weeks, I remember I was calling the office and I was asked, do I have any preferences, like where would I like to go, any part of the country? So I remember I said, I just want to go where it's hot. I'm so sick and tired of being cold, because we didn't have good clothes. Because me and my brother, my sister, were brought up by mom, only by my mother. So we always we didn't have a clothes. We fill up our clothes with newspapers to stay warm during the winter time. And I remember that caused also problems with my peers because they called me a paper man.
So you would fill your clothes up. You would literally fill your clothes up with newspaper.
My mom did. Yes, my mom did to stay warm.
Wow. And
she did that too because we just couldn't buy warm clothes. It was like very expensive.
Wow.
And it was not even available at the time. So yeah, I want to go somewhere that's very hot. So the officer in that center looked at me and said, "How about Memphis? Do I know anything about Memphis?"
Memphis?
Said, no, but I know Elvis Presley was from Memphis. So that's good enough.
Oh my.
So this is how I ended up. I came to America. I started. I got my first job. I came to America. I didn't get my first job actually. The citizens, the American people, helped me, took care of me. They helped me find an apartment. They found me my first job. I was a part-time janitor in the church. And I remember, at that time I didn't know, but I lived in a project where it was with people from Vietnam, from China. And I remember I called my mom, and it was like 150 a month apartment. So I called my mom and said, "Mom, I'm living like in Palace. I have my own apartment, and I even have the air conditioning. Can you imagine that?" She said, "No, impossible. Really?" I said, "Yes." So I remember I started trying to learn English, and I didn't have the time because I was working at the same time. Didn't have the money because I was making, I think, $190 a week. Very little, just enough to pay for the apartment, pay for the crispy rice and milk and olive oil. But I learned English with, and I think it is still haunting me today, from cartoons, basically, trying to watch cartoons, trying to read comics books, because it was kind of easy. I could actually do it on my own. So I basically learned English on my own. And so I had the comics and in the back pocket, map and pocket in both hands. And I was working and trying to build my dreams here. And so slowly I learned English, I got better job, and I advanced, and I was doing very well. By the first Persian War, I was working for Mercedes dealership as a technician. I was training in the Mercedes factory at school. So my life was all set. I was very happy.
And your mother stayed there though. She didn't come over here.
She did not. She was older. She already had her ways set, and besides, she knew that it would be difficult on me and also on the society. She would be weighing on society, depending on the society to provide something for her. And she decided that she didn't want to do it. So she stayed there. But then the first Persian War broke out, and at the same time, I became U.S. citizen. So for me, there was, this is something I will never forget. It's something that's so fresh in my memory. And so I was thinking, walking home with my citizenship certificate, I say, what can I do to my country? And I can't build the jobs. I don't have money. I don't know how to do it, but I can fight for it. So I decided to go and sign up to military. I went to army. First, I didn't know how to do it. The war was going on, so I filled the...
What year was this?
1991.
Okay.
So I filled up the, what do you call it, the draft card?
Right. And how old were you? How old were you at this point?
I was 31.
31, and you just got your citizenship that day.
Yes, and I decided to join military to help with the war. I didn't intend to make a career in military. I just decided I'll just do my share and come back to my normal life, good life, and enjoy and move on. But it never happened. I never left military. But so first time I filled the draft card, I sent it to them, and I announced to my skydiving buddies that, hey, I'm joining military, I'm going to war, so I'm packing my stuff.
No, hold on a second. Wait, you skipped over something there. Your skydiving buddies, at what point did you get into skydiving? You left that completely out of the story.
Well, I got, like I said, I bettered myself. I got a good job. I met a girl who was jumping in different town. She told me about it, described it. I said, the girl can do it, so I can too. Let me try it at least. And I never intended to skydive either. I just went to make one jump, just to, the hell of it, just to know what it is. So I went, I find out what it is in the telephone book. I drove up there, and I asked them, what do I need to do to make a jump? They said, well, just sit for an hour, breathe, hour and 35 minutes, breathe, and then just pay up and go. The jump will be tandem jump, so it will be a passenger, and you're gonna have a jump today. So I sure did. I signed up, paid, went, made the jump. So when I landed, I was hooked. I was like, wow, can I do it again? They say, yes. Do I need to go to the same brief? I said, not really. It might be like shorter one, but we just reinforce what you just learned. Yeah, do it again. So I did one more jump, and then it clicked. I said, well, so what can I do to skydive on my own? So I was told, you go to AFF course, usually take 2-3 weeks. You do 1 or 2 jumps, and then you jump on your own and get this A license. And so I said, sure, where can I start? Well, we could start this Thursday. I said, sign me up. So I paid Thursday. I started to learn how to skydive, and Saturday I purchased my own parachute. I was jumping on my own.
Wow.
I graduated from a year.
So you were already okay. So you're living a good life. You're skydiving. Yeah. You're already doing SEAL stuff, and then you go to an Army recruiter. How did you end up in the Navy?
Well, I didn't know the distinctions between the Army and the Navy. For me, I just wanted to go and help my country fight the war, because that's all I could do. That's the only way I could actually meaningful way contribute to my country. And so I went to Army, signed up, they fill up all the paperwork, and so they start processing it. And it took a while. But in the meantime, Navy SEALs, leapfrogs came to Memphis to demonstrational jobs. It happened they came to our drop zone to jump in the time off. And so I started talking to them. I was told, well, I might want to try to go to join Navy, U.S. Navy and look into the Navy SEALs. I was like, well, I didn't know what the Navy SEALs are, but I like that they jump with parachutes. So I said, well, I'm going to try it. Sure. So I went to a recruiting office in the Navy next door from Army, and asked them about it. They showed me this old movie about Navy SEALs. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So what do I need to do? They say, well, you are so old that we cannot guarantee you entrance into the program in the SEAL training. But don't worry about it. Just sign it, and they will make you a SEAL up there. Once you go, they're gonna make you a SEAL. So I say, okay. So what's next? Go to next door and grab your paperwork. I say, sure. I went up there. I asked them to give me all the paperwork, everything that they processed so far. I went to the Navy recruiting office, and they look at it. They call me like a couple of weeks later and say, so what would I like to do in the Navy? I didn't know. I said, do you have something with the parachutes? I'm skydiving. You told me I cannot go to Navy SEALs because I'm too old. So that's fine too. I just need to I will do my service to my country. And so they say, well, with parachutes, we can. There's a rate, a parachute rigger. Would be okay? I say, sure. Okay, but now you have to. So that was Monday, but you would have to leave to boot camp on Saturday. I was like, what? Well, you have to come back to boot camp. You have to go back to boot camp on Saturday because that class is starting such and such date. That otherwise you will have to wait another 6 months or whatever the time they had opening for that class for parachute rigger. So I said, sure. So Thursday I was sworn in back, the INT program. Saturday I went to Great Lakes boot camp.
Wow. So you just, like they finally said, okay, and you left like that week.
Yes.
Wow.
That was quick because I wanted to get to school. Otherwise, I would have to wait much longer.
So you go and you get into SEAL training. When you got the buds, did you ask yourself, what did I do to my life?
No, not really. I mean, at that time, I went through boot camp. I graduated under #1 recruit from an entire batch of graduating recruits. That was very nice. I was very proud of it. And I was shipped out to Millington, near Memphis, to my parachute rigging school. I went to the school. I graduated pretty much in the top of my class. I don't remember first or second. And
and you were how old when you were in buds? How old were you?
32, 33. I was old. I believe that I'm one of the oldest guys, one of the group, in the group of oldest people who ever graduated from buds.
Yeah, I was 28 when I went through buds. I was 30 though when I went through Ranger School. So
by the bud standard, you were old, and you know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But what happened is, I was told that because I'm old and I have my kidney stone, so I had the kidney stone in the boot camp too. So most likely I won't be able to go to SEAL training. I will have to wait at least 1 year after the hospital's time. And I said, okay. So they was about to send me to just regular fleet to do whatever I tried to do, and I was fine with it. But I'll give it one more try. So I went to Navy SEAL motivator. I did Safari's. I owe him so much. And I will never forget that. And I told him, look, this is my problem. I have in my record says I have a kidney stone, so there's a 1 year waiting time. And I really would like to go and join the SEALs. I think I'm physically fit. My problem is I can't swim, but I can learn. And I can pass, but I'm sure I can pass the test. So he looked at me and he said, I'll just bring me your medical record and look at it. So I brought it in and I say, what is that? So go step outside. So I step outside. I could hear like rip. So come again. So I come in and say, well, I know, well, what are you talking about kidney stone? I don't see any kidney stone in your records here. You sure you had it? I said, man, maybe not. I guess I'm not, but it's a virus. All right. So my paperwork was signed, and I was put on hold in the school for another month, and my orders to SEAL training came in. That's how my dream became reality.
Wow. So you did your time in the teams, and out of all the stuff that you did in the Navy, what stands out? Because you had a long career in the Navy. So what really stands out to you as far as your service goes, your growth goes? The positive aspects of it and the negative aspects of it. Because a lot of people, like you wanted to go in there, you want to serve, I wanted to serve, but there are negative aspects of it in the military. Like for me, I was an officer when I went in, and I really was turned off by the amount of careerism. I saw it then, and I saw a lot of people making decisions based on not what we were preached about constantly when we were going through training. We were making decisions that had nothing to do really with on mission success. It was more of like, what was politically correct, and how we were being used was the decisions were being made by the State Department a lot of the times, rather than what we were actually trained to do.
Yes, but you need to look from my perspective at the time as a young, not so young, enthusiastic, new SEAL. I didn't see any of it, and I didn't even want to see this. And it was pretty transparent to me, though. Although later I became aware of it, or I was made aware of things. But at that time, I think I had a blast of my life. I was doing what I never, just like living in Disneyland every day and enjoying your life. But, I would like to bring a different aspect of it, because people often ask me, like you ask, what is the greatest things? I think the greatest thing is that you feel like a valuable member of society, like you do something for the country. And the funny thing is, the more I wanted to repay my freedom, the more I felt in debt to America and my American people for my freedom. Because I was not only given a new life, I was also allowed to serve in elite units. So instead of paying back, I was getting more and more in debt, and I still feel the same way. When people very often say, thank you for your service, I say, no, thank you for my freedom. I'm trying to correct them. That's this is the other way around. This is me who is saying thank you, not people saying thank you to me for the service.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you should be necessarily anymore, if you should be thanking the people. You are an American citizen now. You are one of those people who supported and defended freedom and put your life on the line for that freedom.
Yes. Let me make a quick point. Here. So yes, I am American. I am not something-American. I am not Polish American, that American, yellow American, pink American, or green American. I'm just American. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. But you're an American. You're an American. Yes. You paid that debt. Nobody owes you. Majority of people, there's only like 1% of the population that actually serves for freedom. The reality is now, when most of the people, you could literally, I wouldn't do this, but you could literally walk up to them and say, "Hey, you're screwing up. You're the reason why we're losing our freedom, not thank you for our freedom." There's very few people we can actually literally thank for our freedom now. So many, majority of people do nothing to support and defend freedom, and they actually go the opposite direction. They're so asleep that they buy into these ideological beliefs, and they don't hold politicians and people to the fire where they actually do their job. It's all ideological now.
Yes, that's correct. But let's take a look from another side, too. Is it what we actually want? This is why we fight. So these people don't have to worry about wars, don't have to worry about the terrorists hunting them somewhere, or country falling apart. That's what we do. And if people don't think about the wars, about the threat, that tells me that we do a good job, and we do a good job protecting our country, so they can concentrate on living free, building our country stronger and better. That's the way I look at it. But you are right, also from another side, there is also a group of people who are working actively to undermine our republic, to undermine our president, and that's what the way I've seen Democratic Party has become a nest for all kinds of socialist misfits, jihadis, and other anti-American elements.
Mm-hmm.
Disgusting.
So now you're at, okay, so you served your time in the Navy. You get out, and of course, all our bodies, after even I spent 5 years in the Navy, but that included Ranger School and all this stuff, and my body is broken. What do you, now though, now that you're out, and we're both older, and you've paid this price, your body, I'm sure, is affected just like mine. What do you look back?
Disabled veteran.
Say again?
I'm 100% disabled veteran. Yes.
Right. So yeah, you definitely paid the price. When you look back on it now, first question is, all this stuff that you went through, was it worth it? Do you think you would have had a better life if you stayed in Poland, or are you glad that you came to America?
I would do it again and again and again and again. So yes, that's I will never forget that the freedom that was given to me by this country and its citizens. So
I know people might think that's a stupid question for me to ask, but the fact is, most people who listen to this we grew up here, right? I served because I was driven to serve, but you were driven here. You had a drive in you from another country. You were seeking out freedom, and I don't think most people realize that you didn't just get here and waste it. You came here and you fought for it. And somebody who's done that, been there, and then afterwards, you have to have peace of mind to an extent because of what you've done in life.
Well, how could it be the other way? I was given new life, and so I want the same opportunity for my children, my grandchildren. We need to fight for this country. We need to protect it from the dangerous elements outside and inside our country.
Yeah. Do you now that you're older, you're past all this stuff, you're here now, what do you see as the future for this country based on your training experience and all the things that you've been through? What do you see? What do you see happening now? You have children. I mean, it has to scare you when you see this stuff being repeated after all this stuff that you've done, all that you've been through. You came here, you were in the military, you did all these things, and now you're here and you're finding the same exact mindset. First of all, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that could happen to this country? And secondly, what's your educated opinion on this? Where do you think we're going to go? What could happen?
If I could envision that, 15 years ago, I would not. I would say that's impossible. This is going to happen. Basically, I escaped from socialism to the country where the socialists now are trying to take over and communists trying to take over it. So it is disturbing. Yeah, it worries me, but I think that our society is a little bit different than the European pacified societies. I think here we are freedom lovers, and people who fight for the freedom will not allow the freedom to be taken away. I know that we are under the onslaught of the fake news media and this small group of anti-American elements and the Democratic Party. Actually, on both sides. I cannot say only Democratic Party. We get that swamp in a Republican Party as well. But I think if we are given, and I'm sure we will, 4 more years of President Trump, a lot of that swamp, that rotten ugliness would go away. Will be, I think, a lot of these nasty anti-American elements are circling the drain already. And we just need to be more careful who we elect to our government. It's not the guy who can speak and promise you everything, promise a bunch of cell phones to everybody, but this is somebody who has a heart, who loves this country, is ready to fight for and the freedom. Because it seems like right now, these politicians, for them, it is not a service to the country. It is more chore and money-making scheme. And if you look at Biden's, think about it for a second. A dope dealer, the dope smoker, and crack and drug mule, Biden Jr. You think he gets a job for $60,000 a month, over $60,000 a month, knowing nothing about the job? Think about it. Why his daddy is vice president? What a crockery. Also, what about Pelosi's family involved in Ukraine? It's disgusting.
What is it with the Ukraine? I want to know. When did the Ukraine become such a mecca of nepotism and criminality?
Well, you see, these people are desperate. They lost part of their territory. And so it was easy to crook Biden's, run up there and Pelosi's and promise them all kinds of things to enrich themselves and make more money of it. So this is what exactly happened. This is what they went in and basically fleeced another country after Haiti. So, yeah.
But I also wonder, Drago, how many of these people came over, that their ancestors or, 100, 200 years ago, that their ancestors came over from somewhere like Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like, how many of these people were actually born, their families are emerged from that area, and so they still have, because a lot of these people that are in politics now, they come from rich families that came from Europe.
Yes. I'm sure it played a role, but I think the most blatant and visible is the drug mule Biden, running the scheme with his daddy and Pelosi's fleecing that country for their personal benefits. It's disgusting.
Are you in a hospital? Is that your heart monitor?
No, hey, don't laugh because I might wear one soon. But no, that's as you know, I'm traveling, so that's the kind of.
So I'm not going to keep you on here much longer. This has been a good interview, pretty good long interview. What is your final warning, I think, for the people? You can always come back on this podcast anytime. We'll have you on again and again. Hopefully the next time I have you on, it will be in person, so it'll be much better audio. But what is your warning from now? Okay, so let's look at the last time I had you on was like 2 years ago, and I probably am going to record that and replay it as well, or I have the recording. I'll probably replay that eventually. But what is your warning? We've talked about from then to now, and it's pretty incredible how much stuff has changed from then to now. What is your warning to the American people? Like, for instance, how fast things can change to the point to where, you may be liberal or you may be establishment conservative, but if you keep down this road, things can change so quickly that even you won't be ready for it.
It is. Just watch what is going to be. Pay attention to what is going on in our country. Look, we had a coup attempt just not too long time ago. Now it's another coup attempt underway with all this scheme and fake accusations and fake stories. So we need to pay attention to it and don't subscribe to it. Do not subscribe to socialist ideology because it is progressing in our country, and as you can see, progressing faster with each year. Before we talk about it, now we have the full terrorist group operating under the Democratic Party, with support of Democratic Party, terrorizing our society. Be outspoken. Speak to your neighbors. Teach your children the proper moral values, and resist socialism. Socialism is not good. If you educate yourself about that, you get scared. That system murdered people around the world in millions. And remember, National Socialists, they're what they like to call their opponents, the socialists. It's just called Cousin of Socialism. Whether this is national socialism, whether it's Bernie Sanders socialism, or whether it's a democratic socialism. Socialism is a stepping stone to communism, dangerous totalitarian system.
All right, well, let's keep monitoring on it. And you see anything that you think should be pointed out, you give me a call. We'll put you back on here, and then we'll just keep going as far as that going, educating the people on the truth.
Jonathan, thank you for having me on your show.
You got it, brother. And this podcast it's flying high very quickly. So let's hope that this gets as good a ratings as the first one, because this is all truth that people need to know. And
I would like to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Jonathan, a lot of people actually are asking about your show, and I think on connectzing.com.
Yep.
If they can come, they can find our conversations. They can find us and our group. So
okay, that's definitely. I've lacked off a couple days connecting stuff on there, but I've talked about this in the first show. Connect Zing, what Drago did, and anybody's wondering, I keep pushing Connect Zing. Connect Zing was created by Drago, and it is basically a Facebook killer. That's what I like to call it, because it doesn't have the leftist aggressive censorship. So shows that you have on there they're not going to be censored, or videos that you put up or pictures. I'm sure if Drago sees things that are criminal or something like that, there's going to be a difference. But overall, ideologically, it's not going to be censored.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we really do appreciate that. And, of course, somebody like you is going to come up with a solution for that. Somebody who did all these things, escaped socialism, came over here, made a difference in freedom, fought for freedom, and is now giving people an opportunity to be free in their speech. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So we thank you for that.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You got it, brother. Drago, my friends. Drago, I'll be talking with you here in a little bit, but thank you very much, buddy. And have a good trip the rest of the way down to where you're going.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You got it, brother. Now, the interesting thing about that conversation, and that was an incredible interview. Drago's going to laugh when I say this. It seems like every time, well, I would say 90% of the time I talk to him, whether it's about business or we're talking about what's going on in the world, he is in the car. He and his wife and their kids, they travel around more than anybody I know in their car. But what a great, incredible interview, and it should make you pause and really want to come back on Monday and listen to what we have to say now after all of this. And, here's the other thing. The sound now on this podcast as compared to January has changed a lot. I got to give a shout-out to the Rodecaster Pro and this incredible soundboard that I have, how it's changed. Just that technology has changed this podcast completely. But it's so important now that we understand where we have come this fast, and how, especially if Georgia does not go well and they win the Senate, even if the president wins, things are going to continue to change very rapidly. And if they somehow flip the Senate, because we still got a revote coming in January in Georgia. And if the president is not, and his team are not able to stop this, I mean, listen, for the past 4 years and this year, especially, the only thing that kept us in check was Donald Trump. That's not a fanboy thing. I'm not saying it because I think he did a perfect job. I mean, nobody's going to do a perfect job except Jesus Christ himself. But he did a pretty amazing job of keeping us from that socialist slide. So I want you to think about something. Really consider this, okay? Since January of this year, our country has slid ever faster towards socialism. The Democrats, everything they've done, I keep saying the totality of circumstances, when you look at it, everything that's happened in this nation this year that has slid us so quickly into a socialist grip was allowed to happen not because President Donald J. Trump did anything wrong, but because the American patriots failed to step forward. It was like that 2 years after the president was elected, and we did not keep Congress, and it's been like that now. And the only thing that is going to save this country is the Patriots. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and I'm out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody.